into something funny.
Well, I'm Wheezy F's baby, and the F is for phenomenal. Hello, everybody, and welcome.
Real G's moved silent like lasagna.
Welcome to the next episode of Welcome to the next episode of First Four or More. This is the one where we talk about TV shows and go through the first 4 episodes.
It's been a while, guys. It's nice to see you.
Yep. And so
She quoted Stained.
that was pretty good. So before we get into shit, and if you want to skip ahead, I guess you can, but I'll be quick instead. So
Housekeeping.
Grind 1,000 subscribers contest. If you subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and like the video, you enter into a raffle. First place gets $100, plus you can request a review from whoever you want on the channel.
Yep.
Second place is $50 plus a review. Third place is $25 plus a review.
And
if we hit it before February 20th,
just,
2 additional
lining it up. Knocking
2
them out.
additional $25 will be given out. Finally, for every video you like and comment on, you get extra entries. I'm keeping track of the comments. Proof to the pudding is there's a request list. That's a culmination of all requested videos.
it's huge.
It's got over
gonna be
200
huge.
albums requested on it. So you guys can add to that by requesting in the comments what you want to see us cover in the future. So now that we have blitzed through that, and maybe the fastest I've ever done it, and maybe I should speed it up in the future is what I'm hearing them fucking say. My name's HSR.
We didn't introduce ourselves last time. Sorry.
That's fine.
I am your lady friend Bonnie,
I'm a guy.
And so
and he's just this guy over
I'm
here.
And
Sid.
so as you pointed out, there was a last time. So episode 1 is over there. You can click on that. We recommend watching that before episode 2 because it would be like a thematic, like a journey with us.
We also recommend you watch the actual episode first so you don't get super lost.
And there's spoilers as fuck.
Heavy
so,
spoilers.
And given that like we lost ad revenue with everything on this show, so fuck that shit. We're going in hard with whatever comes to mind.
Yeah.
Fuck the police coming straight from the underground.
I will stop it at that line.
That's actually all I know.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. The next line isn't safe for this show. We basically...
Cat line's okay?
Yeah, that one's cool.
Okay.
All right, so what show are we talking about today?
It's the end of the fucking world.
By
As you
R.E.M.
know it.
Yep.
I feel fine. So this is season 1, episode 2. We are
Not
discussing
the R.E.M.
today.
song. We were
No,
just kidding. It's an
no.
actual show.
Netflix
It's on
show.
Netflix, and it's based off a
Super
graphic
British.
novel, and we covered that in the first episode. And so now we're at episode 2, and we left off with them like driving off in the car, and him fantasizing about murdering her.
Very
him
sweet.
being James, our main protagonist, right?
And
Her being Alyssa, the girl that he's interacting with. They are 2 little teenage runaways.
They're like
And by
17.
little, I mean, he's pretty tall.
And by little, we mean he's topless, and he's sitting. I don't know. He's
Yeah, so
topless,
the episode starts.
and
He's topless,
like-
she's not, which is a nice change.
and basically the car is burning.
No,
And-
It's not. Well, it's.
Oh no,
That's
it's
how it
smoking.
starts.
No, it's not
smoking.
burning.
You're
It's
right.
not burning.
It's
It's-
smoking.
it's just
it's
crashed.
crashed into a tree. It's smoking.
So
a
like
little
you
bit.
know that you're kind of like bloop, like you kind
In
of
the
dropped
middle.
into the
Yeah.
middle of the story.
And then he goes, "Do you think it's gonna explode?" And she goes, "It's not a film." But then the thought voice goes, "But if it was a film,
We'd all be
we-"
American.
Which is really funny
Yeah,
because
I
it
enjoyed
is
that.
a film, and they're all British.
It's a TV show.
Whatever.
First off.
True.
Relax. Oh, I get the joke even better now. That is really funny. That's hilarious. So
You know what's funny also is that she probably said that exact same line in the comic book.
That's pretty freaking funny.
So
Interesting.
like layers on layers on layers on Shrek. Okay, let's go.
And then, Shrek means, because of, just in case you didn't know last episode, that there's onions, and onions have layers, and this show has layers like Shrek.
It's like The Office.
Yeah.
So we cut to 3 hours earlier, which is both in anyway. She's out of the top of his car cruising, and he's fantasizing about the sound she'll make when she passes away from this world by
Wow.
his.
Not even fantasizing, more just kind of like generally wondering.
You're right. He's
like
musing.
he's not like
he's
sad.
pondering.
He's like,
I wonder what it'll sound like when I kill her. Like.
And you kind of hear her go back. Like.
And then she asks him some shit like how freedom smells. And then he's like, seatbelts. And she's like, fuck a seatbelt.
Yeah.
And then she's clearly within like seconds bored and asks what he wants to do.
And they can do anything.
And he has no idea. And she emphasizes how literally they can do anything. But then what they choose to do, hats off. Great choice. Like, of all the things you can do.
Some people I know would definitely choose this.
Like, I
but-
would choose this option more, like, it's laser tag.
Yeah.
It's fucking great. Laser tag is awesome
He
if
is
you've never
not
done
into it. His
No.
particular skill set does not match the pew pew of
Which he
And then,
finds a
like-
little bit ironic in light of what the activity is.
right.
And she is just kind of running around having the time of her freaking life
But
shooting at him.
she's like, ugh, like if you're not gonna play, then it's no fun, you know. Like she's just kind of like, oh, are you dead inside? And
Yeah, and he's just kind of like there. And I think she's starting to, at this point, realize, oh, what the hell did I just sign myself up to, right? Like, there's that little bit of that first moment that's come through.
well, I think
Like,
like they both kind of have
They're
that.
starting
Like,
to get to know each other and realize that like this person is not necessarily the person I maybe thought that they would be for my purposes.
yeah.
And then, yeah.
She asks him to put his tongue in her ear.
That's
Like
true.
really quickly. Like, okay, this is boring again. Put your tongue in my ear.
And
I
then
like it.
the PA, the public announcement system, goes off, and they're like, they leave, and he apologizes to the guy. Like that's I wouldn't say that's compassionate. It was just like kind of like, sorry, you know, like you don't deserve that. But like it was unnecessary of him to do it, which was my first clue as to like, you're a fake psychopath. Like,
Yeah.
like it's, I mean, you can well reason your reputations and all that shit and blah, 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 whatever. But like, it was just not relevant in that moment for him to have actually given that sorry that he gave. And I was like, oh, maybe this
But the thing is, right, like, he's still a kid,
Yeah.
right? So he's still kind of like learning the world, and this guy is still an adult, and he's still smart enough to realize that they did something inappropriate, even if he
You're fair.
emotionally doesn't
Okay,
care.
I
Right?
see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And then they're eating at a diner, and she's going on about her mom's probably calling a bunch, stupid bitch, because she knows she isn't. And whereas his
And that
dad,
she's already broken her phone and she's happy she did and whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then she asks about him, and he's like, well, my dad's probably at home waiting, not calling. He has good optimism and shit.
He's
Then
not
it
calling the police
Cuts to him with like an ice pack.
because he got punched in the face,
Yeah.
right, in the last episode.
And she eats a bunch and then gets like irrational about it, and then kind of like what, I just like to eat, blah blah blah, like, you know, because he's like not eating at all, and I guess this triggers her a bit.
Well, also too, I think that we saw that there were like issues about eating kind of from her mom.
Yeah, because she explains how her mom sees feud as an abusive relationship, and she means it, and they kind of like film a little bit of her mom like eye fucking something she's eating, and
Yeah.
like looks tortured, probably because she knows she has to maintain a certain body weight in order to keep her man and look, you know, the part.
And
Yeah.
it's like it's an example of how a scene can be really dark and really telling, but like really funny and really quirky at the same time.
Yeah.
Because it's just like she picks up her sandwich and she's kind of like, what? And her mom's just like sitting across like face to face in this like really nice table.
And she's in like athletic gear.
Right.
And like, so she's obviously trying to like work out and like be skinny and stuff. And she's
Yeah.
just kind of like, I want that.
And then, yeah, as they're back at their table, they both realize they have no money because she spent all their money on laser tag.
All her money. I mean, she
Yeah.
only had, I guess,
And then he
20
has
bucks then.
none. And then she starts to rationalize to him, okay, we're going to have to, like, basically steal it.
Well, because they have this little back and forth, right, where she's like, I thought I was being polite paying for this. And he's like, I just never bring any money anywhere. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then she starts to be like, okay, well, you can't steal from, like, the independent guys, but you can steal from, like, the big boys.
Yeah.
But so then it cuts to, like, her dad explaining this. But if it's a
you
chain.
don't see her dad's face. You just see this little impressionable girl looking up at her dad, and her dad kind of explaining,
Hey,
like,
but if it's a chain, it's
It's
free
free
reign.
reign.
Now say it back to me.
If it's a chain, it's free reign.
And then she explains that he's kind of like Robin Hood, and she kind of like.
So she
because he
obviously,
gives another line where he's just like, otherwise the terrorists win. And
Yeah.
that got me, like,
That's
Yeah.
really funny
I
too.
died.
And it's
And then-
interesting that because she still is kind of idolizing. She still is kind of that
Yeah,
little girl looking
absolutely.
up to him and believing everything that he said 10 years ago.
And then
And-
Yeah.
she
And
kind of
there's-
like paints the franchise a lot like a demon.
Yeah.
Not really realizing that this could just be a franchise owner, meaning it really is just. And then anyway, she like, doesn't really get it. It was just pure propaganda.
But
Yeah.
there's also, like, kids tend to idolize absentee parents more than they care about or appreciate the
Well,
ones that are there, right? Like
Sometimes.
sometimes. Often, like, this is a trope, right? This is a
Yeah.
trope in fiction.
Yeah.
It's something that's very much based off of real life.
And then
Yes.
basically, she's like, "So are you down to like dine and dash?" And
He's gone.
Yeah.
No, but
Like-
he kind of first prefaces it. In my experience with Alyssa, it's best to be willing. So he just abruptly gets up and walks out of the room.
And you can see that she's impressed. She's like,
whoa.
That was interesting. Bad boy. You know what's up.
what you gonna do?
And so then they go back into the car, and she goes, seatbelt, and he goes, fuck seatbelt. And I'm like, okay. That moment there, I think he was a genuine moment of compassion for him. Like, it was a slip. It was a little bit of, he had more fun than he meant to with this girl. It was something that happened there.
And again, you can see his walls starting to break down just a little bit. Like, as anyone's walls will when they're
and when you're feeling vulnerable, which is what happens next, you lash out, and he goes, I have her right where I want her, he thinks. And then she just kind of wants sex.
We should have sex.
And then she's like, starts taking off his shirt while they're driving, and he feels kind of like...
And she's kind of like pushing him, like, no, like, keep driving.
Yeah, and she obviously kind of doesn't know anything about sex, and he's a little not sure about it.
Because, like...
that too. But it's just this classic moment. He cuts to his dad describing sex to him. And he's kind of like...
Sorry.
So the woman gets to just think back and
lay back and think about England.
Us men,
we
have
are
to
England.
be England. And then his shirt gets stuck and the car crashes. But you really get the sense that this is some virgin who doesn't really have any idea what he's in for.
Yeah.
And thinking about his dad, and he's like, I don't know how what she's saying is possible. And then she gets all giggly and shit right after the car crashes, and he starts freaking out, like really freaking out.
Which is cool, because this is the first time you really see him display a real, like, fear and, and compassion, because he recognizes that
this is the most expensive thing that his father has ever bought.
It comes off cold and dispassionate, but relative to everything else he's showing, this is actually a really passionate display of emotion.
I didn't think he came off cold. He was really like, oh shit, this is the most expensive thing my dad ever bought. Like, this is gonna drive him nuts. Like,
but it's not even about the. I think it was this realization that he smashed his dad's pride and joy.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Like
that's and kind of his moment too, where he was like, fuck, like I can't go back.
Like
you know, like.
And they both kind of have this moment where, like, should we go back? Can we go back home?
Yeah.
They kind of want to go back home, both of them, but they also don't want to admit to the other one that they want to go back home.
Yeah.
All I know, and then, like, in her mind in the car before they get out, it's like, she's like, what the fuck are we going to do now? So then we're back at the opening scene of the episode, and all that we described was about 6 minutes of real time.
Yeah.
The episode does pace out a little quicker as it goes on, but we go back to the opening scene, and right after they're making the line about the car exploding, it explodes.
Well, sort of, yeah. It
as
catches
they start
on fire.
walking away, it kind of explodes and catches on fire a bit. She snidely goes, you reckon you can still fix this? And I thought of Bonnie. That was my first thought. In my notes.
I would say that.
It's just, it says just like Bonnie.
Because I think she says, he says, I think we should stay. And then, you know, she's just kind of like, well, we can't fucking drive it. And then he goes, well, you know,
whatever.
Maybe we could try to fix it. And then that's when it blows up.
And then she's like,
and then she goes,
you reckon you can fix it now? And I'm like, Bonnie would have said just that in that moment, in that tone. And I was
Which means either this girl is realistic or Bonnie is a cartoon character.
She is totally a cartoon character. So he asked her if she wants to go home. Then they go through that really annoying back and forth where they have their, I find it annoying, but they have their epiphanies where they realize they can't go back home, but they don't tell each other why. They just both kind of keep it to themselves. And then
he thinks about killing her again. And then he...
Well, first, he asked her what she wants to do, and then she's like, you think of something. And then he kind of has the whole thing where he thinks about killing her, and he rationalizes how...
He's like, oh, I can't, you know, I'll be tied to the car. Like, you know, I can't do it here.
It was just interesting how, like, she's starting to realize he's made no decisions at all at this point. And it's a little bit relevant for the plot of this. And he's starting to
realize how fucking annoying she is.
Yeah. That's kind of what happened.
Yeah.
Just like Bonnie. And then they proceed to walk through the woods.
Rude.
And this is like
shots fired casually.
And then this is like the first long scene in like the whole show. It's just them walking in pure quiet, like nothing happens.
Well,
for like
not pure quiet. There's like a song.
Whatever, but like relative to the action-packed nature of what we've seen so far, it's like nothing for like 15 seconds.
It's them traveling through the forest.
And it's funny because action packed, right? Like it's not. These are really just arbitrary life.
Dense.
Like they go to a dinner. Like they sit and eat fries.
But like in terms of what's happening in every...
What I mean is they cut it in such a way that it seems like it's really exciting and really action packed, but it's not.
It's very exciting. It's a very well written show, is what I'm saying.
Well paced.
Yes, indeed. So this is just the opposite of that normal pacing. It just kind of like gives you a little break, and then they go outside, and they're like, he's standing there without a shirt on,
trying to hitch a ride.
However, the camera is thumb up, and then he's like, "Why is no one stopping?" And she's like, "You're standing there with your tits out, and you look like weird, and only weirdos are gonna stop for you."
Yep.
And then this fucking guy stops.
Yep. And she kind of looks. He looks at her. She's like, "No fucking way!" Like you can see it all in her face. And then he looks back, and she looks back, and then he's like, "Do you want to ride or not?" And he goes, "Yeah." And then he gets in, and the look on her face. When she doesn't get in it, he agrees.
He's just like, "Come on,
and she goes, "If we get murdered, I am gonna be so fucked off.
I'm gonna be so fucked off if we get murdered." Then she gets in the back, and then he gets in the front. And then she's just like, "I can't believe you got in the fucking front."
Yeah.
And that was hilarious. I thought pictured Bonnie again in that moment.
No, I think it's fine. Like if you want to be in the front.
But I think
I think it's cool that it's cute. You just picture Bonnie all the time.
Yeah, I do. Sometimes it happens. So then
once a week because it's healthy.
Right?
Yes.
Oh no.
The creepy dude.
I'm so happy I got away with that one. All right.
So the creepy dude asked her to hand him a sweater. And then the creepy dude implies that they're dating. She snidely responds, "Why do you think that?"
Well, she's just snotty to him like the whole way through.
Yeah.
Then,
but again, you can also tell that she's pissed at what's his name? James, right? You can tell that she's pissed at him, right? So she's like, "He's not my boyfriend."
Yeah. And then they start discussing this dog picture. Turns out he's a very dangerous fighting dog.
This guy.
He's going
to buy him very nonchalantly, like, kind of implying what he's going to do with it.
Don't do that.
She interjects, like,
don't Michael Vick.
That this car smells like stinky feet. He just writes it off, continues talking about his dog. Turns out he's been 5 years in the army. But meanwhile, James is like, "This guy's the shit. He's a sociopath like me. I want to be like, it's so weird."
He's like, "Yo, you're trying to figure out like all the army stuff." I guess he's trying to figure out people that he's killed and stuff.
Well, that comes a bit later, but he looks back and then he's like, "What y'all been up to?" And he gets all pervy when he looks at her, and they're all like, James is just like, "We haven't done anything," and he then like the trucker guy's like, "Ah, it's cool. I'm not a cop or anything. You can tell me, blah blah blah," and then they're like, "We didn't do anything, but still." Anyway, James then says his mom's dead when he's been asked about it.
Yeah.
If he wanted to like make a call. To which you can see how girl is not happy with this
like,
because if you will recall, in the last episode, he told her that mother was in Japan.
Yeah. Yes, and so that happens, which
it's
we
just
find
interesting
out...
that he's more honest with like this guy than he was with her.
Right. Because he's connecting to this guy, right? Like this guy's a murderer. He's killed people, whereas this girl is just someone he wants to kill.
Really fair point.
He sees this guy as kind of like an equal, like a fellow traveler.
And then we cut into the diner when she calls him on the dead thing versus Japan thing. Then she calls the guy a prick. She gets mad at him, kind of like, "Why the fuck are you defending him? Why do you like him? He's a murderer. He's a dog murderer. He gets dogs to murder people."
Yeah, and he was in the army.
And then he comes back with some like hot cocoa or whatever, or coffee or whatever. And in the wallet, she kind of sees his family. She asked about them. She goes on to call the baby a potato.
And then a ham.
Which is my favorite thing to call anyone.
I think it's baby Jack, and then a ham. And then she's kind of like, "Don't you look at it? Come on, look at it." Like, she looks like she's trying to actually have fun and connect with them for a second.
Like James, particularly. Yeah, right? Like, she really wants James to agree because
and he's just like, "No."
Yeah.
And then they're like, "No, it doesn't." And then they both just flatly stare at her. And then you can see how, like, she, like, kind of storms off. James apologizes. He comments how she's kind of full on, like, you're gonna fuck. And he's just really.
No, that's not what it means. It just means that she's a bit of a handful.
And
she's
then,
a bit of a handful, like she's.
And then like, well, that's a woman, eh? Kind of like left it like that.
Right. Say no more. Say no more. Hey.
And then he seems kind of confused and goes, maybe. Like, I have no idea what the fuck you just said to me. And then asks how many people he's killed. Do you keep track? He's like, "No, that'd be kind of sick, eh?"
And then he's like, "I would
totally have kept track."
In his head. Yeah. And then he's like kind of getting into it. And then James goes to the loo and the creeper comes and joins him.
Yeah.
And then we cut over to Alyssa kind of deliberating on the need to apologize. And the way I didn't write down exactly what it said. She's like, sometimes I recognize the need that even I have to go and apologize. Like she's
kind of like, sometimes I realize I should apologize even though I don't want to.
Yeah, like
but she knows it's the right thing to do.
You know what? It was like it was a moment of that. That was cute. Like just watching her have that play out. Like I felt that. I know many people who have felt that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then she sees that both of them are gone and immediately heads for the bathroom, suspicious. And then the creeper is in the bathroom and he's peeing.
First of all, like he says, "Well, what happened to your hand?" Like while they're peeing, so he's clearly looking at his hand / penis.
And then he like comes closer and he like grabs his hand.
And this scene is so uncomfortable because you know exactly what's happening.
His hand to his dick.
Well,
no. He pulls it to his mouth.
First, he kisses his hand, like the burnt hand.
Yeah.
And then he puts it on the wee.
And James just kind of goes, sometimes things happen and I just kind of go along with them even though I don't want them to happen.
Yeah.
And this says a lot about consent, right? Like, I'm just stepping out of the episode for a moment. Like, that line, just that singular line, says a lot about how young, vulnerable people sometimes get dragged into experiences they don't want to get dragged into because other people are more confident and just ready to drag them into it because they're not saying no. And
I think that's something, I mean, it comes out a little bit later on, or, you know, like, Elisa or Alyssa, comes in and she sees them together. And then she's kind of trying to stop both of them. And then she says to him, like, you know, you need to know that, like, you can say...
No, that comes, like, later on.
I know, but then, like, I'm just breaking into...
Well, it happens next. It happens next, because she comes in and she goes, are you gay?
Yeah. So gay,
and again, that's the other thing, right? Where it's like...
Before that consent thing happens, she starts the dude and gets his wallet and takes his money, threatens the police.
But she asks, are you gay first?
Yeah.
Which is a really special thing, too, because a lot of the time, victims get blamed for these things, right? So she walks in, sees this, no context, and immediately it's him, right? Are you gay? The kid, James. Mm-hmm. And it's like...
Well, it's also, you know, that the dad thought that he was gay as well. Yeah. So it's like sort of like, maybe it's like a running joke almost, or like something that he has to prove that he's not gay.
And then he's like, no. And then she realizes what's actually happening here, that he's almost vulnerable and just, you know, running through it.
Yeah.
And then points out, you know, I'm going to go tell your family and the police, give me your damn wallet. And then they go outside, and that's where that conversation happens.
Yeah, and then so she says, you know,
it happens again a little. Like, it happens a little more.
Well, it kind of only really happens because that scene kind of like ends with the extortion thing.
Yeah.
And then they're outside and they have the conversation where it starts with like, well, why'd you do it? And then I see what you're saying later on, but yeah.
Yeah, so then, you know, she's talking about like, you know, you don't have to do this just because somebody's telling you to do it, and, you know, you can say no. But like, I think that's also her reflecting that this is happening to her as well.
Right, because then
because
she says
of her stepfather.
But then she also says, you know, she asks, do you want me or are you just along with this?
That comes later on though. Yeah. So, like, at this point, they're on the bench, and then he asked, did something happen when you were small? And he's like, no. Because that's interesting, because if you think about, as we're talking about it, when I was thinking about how that bathroom scene plays out, it kind of alludes that something did maybe happen to him when he was small. Like,
right,
this was
maybe.
Because he kind of
I think he just lost his mom. I think that's what it is.
A little bit familiarly to the situation, if you think about it. Like, he just went along with it.
I think there's more to the story about his mom.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it's that, but I don't think his dad is creepy.
Because the kid's a psychopath, right? Well, so something bad happened to him as a kid.
No.
I'm saying something happened.
Yeah, like we're gonna get more light on that. Something bad happened to him to make him the way he is.
It's got to be really funny for somebody who's like watched all 6 or whatever, who's like watching it now, like these fucking idiots. We've only watched to the end of the 2nd episode at this point.
I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, so
Dexter's mom was chopped up into little pieces.
Anyway, when clearly she's making like no headway with him, she storms off like
I'm tired.
And then runs off. And then they're at a motel, and this woman is like, a double room, eh? And she's like, yeah, a double room for double sex and double blah blah blah. But in her head she goes, I just really need to cry. Yeah. And that was like that was like one of those moments where, it just like, I've seen that happen. Like, there's so many parts of this show where they really are aiming for realism in the human development of these characters.
Yeah, for sure.
Because like, she still feels like she's got to put on this like tough exterior of like, I'm mean, I'm angry, I'm a teenager, rah, fuck the world. But in her head, she's like, I want to cry. So it's
yeah. And then they're on the bed in the hotel room. They turn on the TV. because they're kind of both just sitting there awkwardly. They don't know what the fuck's up. So then she asks for porn. She puts the porn on. She sits there awkwardly for like not
A
even
minute,
10
you know,
seconds. And she starts breaking down. She runs to the bathroom and starts like crying and shit. And this is a freaking interesting scene because as she's in the bathroom, kind of breaking down and starting to cry, it cuts over to him as he picks up his knife and he's
Well,
like,
he takes it out of his boot or his shoe
Yeah,
or
he's
like-
got it
something.
in his.
he's like ready to go and he's like priming himself and he's building himself up. But then he hears her start to cry and you just see him crack. You see him soften a little bit, right? And it was like, okay.
And it's
And
really
then-
cool because in this moment, right, in this little moment, you see
That he
first off
cares.
but you see their two they're two bait. What am I trying to say here? Okay, so she is really complicated, right? Like she ran away from a complicated home life, from problems. She's trying to get away from her world. Her world is sad. It's terrible. Like there's not really any happiness or any joy in her life.
Yeah.
True.
He wants to kill someone. And that is their two motivations on either side of the door happening.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
And then he realizes she's about to come out.
Yeah.
But at the same time realizes he can't. You almost start to get the sense that he doesn't want to go through with it quite to the same
Well, he's
degree.
obviously compassionate and like, you know,
Yeah.
she's crying and
And
she's,
then
you know, not
sh-
feeling great.
So she regains her composure. He ditches the knife. She kind of is like, I'm going to the vending machine. And like walks out to the vending machine. And then you see Alyssa's stepdad answer the phone. And she doesn't say anything when he answers. And he's like, is that you?
Yeah,
Is that
it's
you,
awful.
Alyssa? It is, isn't it? And then she's like, can I speak to my mom? And you see the mom in the background looking all hopeful and shit. And he's just like, stay over there with his finger. And he's like, she doesn't want to speak to you. And then the mom looks all broken and Alyssa looks all
And
broken.
it's that same look, right? That same like accepting, ignoring,
Yeah.
but at the same time knowing exactly what's happening. Look, she just kind of looks down,
Yep.
and that's it.
And then she
And then she just hangs
Alyssa
up the
hangs
phone.
up. And then Alyssa is kind of in a chair and looks at this card that her birthday card her dad had given her, and in it is an address. So she pockets that, and then there's this hollow kind of scene of the stepdad looking at the mom like food's good, eh? Like just this little like moment, like over there, life's just normal, and the mom's still looking kind of broken.
Yeah.
And then James asked for permission to close the pornography, like they'd been sitting there for a while. It kind of
But-
alludes a little bit of time has passed.
I do want to bring it up too because this is a classic element of an abuser too, right? Like he sits down, he doesn't even bring up the fact that this woman's daughter just called who has run away from home, right? Like he is deflecting it, bringing it back to him. Food's good, right? Like this is me. I'm the one you're focused on right now,
Right.
not your daughter who I don't care about, who I wanted gone.
Yeah.
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 And then Alyssa lets him know that they can turn off the pornography, and she cannot go home, but he can. And asked him now if he wants her or if he's just kind of going along for the ride.
Yeah.
And then he kind of is like, yes, I do want her. She's like, look, I'm going to my dad. You're either coming or you're not. He's like, I'm coming.
Yep.
And then she rolls over like they're going to go to bed. And then she goes, James, can you come cuddle me? Like classic, like 11 o'clock kicks in and okay, now it's cuddle time. And like,
But she's clearly like upset and
yeah,
Yes.
like she
not
just
just wants
wanted,
cuddles for cuddles.
Like I feel, you know, she's
No,
just
no, this
rejected by
was-
her family.
but this was
basically.
like, it's time to let her guard down. This is the man she wants to be around, or boy. And this is the one she wants to like find comfort in. And then he comes over,
But she does say that at the beginning that she could fall in love with him and that, you know, she does feel comfortable around him. So
and then
and he's like stabby, stabby, kill, kill.
yeah.
But you see him like he comes over to cuddle and that awkward moment where it's like, what angle do I take here, right?
Yeah.
Because she's like not really moving. She's just kind of like,
and
Yep.
then, yeah.
yeah.
And it's never helpful, ladies. Sometimes some guidance is helpful if you want the ideal cuddling experience. We might be wrong if you leave it to our judgment to assume where our arms
fair.
go. And we're not talking about inappropriateness. I've just learned there's many angles that are uncomfortable in my cuddling times.
all right.
You got a mouth.
Yeah, I do.
Speak up.
All I'm trying to say is it looked awkward as fuck to watch him
did.
grab onto her. And then the look he makes
looks
as
at,
he
like, the
looks back,
camera.
which is actually the thumbnail of this video, because I took a screenshot for it, like, and I thought it was really substantial. And it was just this, like, creepy look. Like, Like it just
He's
kind
kind of like, I'm sleeping with the enemy, sort of like.
Yeah.
he's realizing that this is his prey, and it's almost like he's lost in the ethereal moment. It's almost like he's a teenage boy with the girl he wants to bang, and he wants to like cuddle her, and he's being safe and whatnot. But really, he wants to kill her. But really, he wants to bang her. That's just kind of where it leaves you, right?
Yep.
Oh, one more thing happens worth noting. The dad calls the police.
Yeah. The dad,
which is
yeah,
very
finally.
noteworthy, and that's kind of where the episode ends. It's kind of where our we're at now, because I
So obviously they're gonna find the the broken car on the side of the road,
Yep.
and they're gonna figure all this stuff out. So we'll see where that.
and then
that
it's
goes.
gonna be like a bit of a chase. What I can tell you is the key question of the episode that you're all probably wondering: would I keep watching? Fuck
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
would.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
for sure.
Like,
Super in it.
It's and it's short. Like, had they done this for 40 minutes, it would have been a mind fuck of intensity. And had they paced it out to 40 minutes, it might have been really boring and generic. But this is the right kind of 20-minute episode.
Yeah,
it's
this is
fun.
something you can watch quickly, but it's gonna be so entertaining for you.
And you can
it's
watch it again. Like,
so-
there's things you're gonna miss. So
No,
you want to
you have to watch it again. I would say that it's not often. This is short. Look, for one episode of like an hour-long show or whatever, you can watch this twice.
Yeah.
It's not gonna kill you. You're in fact gonna. It's like dodgeball. As Ben Stiller says, dodgeball is layered so that you're supposed to watch. And no bullshit. In the show Extras on HBO, they make fun of him a bit for this because it's Ben Stiller and he says all this. It's
Okay.
layered, and the more you watch it, the more you see things, and it's like this show. The more you watch it, the more you catch stuff, and
I agree with Ben
Very
Stiller
good.
most of the time.
Yeah.
He is a national treasure.
He's something.
dodgeball is fantastic. And you?
All right.
How do you guys feel? Would you keep watching?
Yeah, I would.
yeah.
I mean, this is
I feel
really
like I
good.
just talked a lot. Anyway, so yeah, I guess that's the end of this one, everyone. Thanks for watching. Comment, let us know how you feel. We'll come back with episode 3 and 4, and then you can let us know if you want to see more. On that note,
Yeah.
have a good night.